Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Well, the Utah Hockey Club has been renamed. They're the Utah Mammoth, keeping the same colors, the white, the blue, the black. Got the new logo, had a press conference, had the NHL commissioner, Gary Bettman, in town, showered the club with praise for how they were able to multitask, launching the new club while still running the Jazz, while building the temporary practice facility and working on the permanent facility and working on remodeling the arena and coming up with the logo. So he had a lot of praise for them. There's no doubt about that. And they fielded questions, and you'll hear as you listen to the Q&A portion of the press conference here, Bettman also said, yep, they are planning an outdoor game, whether it's on New Year's Day or the Stadium Series, which could be played sometime in January, February, whatever. It's still to be determined. They don't even have a year, but he alludes to a game at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So lots of ground to cover. Here is Ryan Smith, his wife Ashley, and Gary Bettman at the podium taking questions.
Cole Baggy with KSL Sports. Ryan, Ashley, congratulations on this incredible announcement. Ryan, I'm just curious, what has been your favorite part of this process from the team arriving to now having an official name?
So, first I probably ought to thank Qualtrics for actually aggregating everything and doing the work. That's a little, it was a big task, especially from being able to go around in the arena. I think the arena part, when we finally got down to the final couple, it was interesting. My favorite part was our fans made it very easy for us. Every single night we were doing the voting, Mammoth just started running away with it. And the momentum, it was like, if it was horse racing, because I just watched the Kentucky Derby, it was like pulling away. And for us, it was like, that's it. And I think every single person around the table went through it. The process I probably wouldn't recommend, again, not because I don't believe in the voting of nearly 1 million people, but it's changed a little where AIs, it's not like they're just voting with their number or their words, they're now voting with images that are no designer could ever develop. But I actually think we leaned into that and we actually came up with something really cool. And probably lastly is we uncovered a little bit of the Mammoth history in this state. It was daunting of how close and tight, and whether it was Lake Bonneville or Fairview, Utah, or Lake Powell, and the size of the Mammoth and how fast they go, it became this really cool thing, and then it just catapulted with, Tuss Up. Tomorrow you'll be able to hashtag Tuss Up and the Mammoth shows up next to it. It's all kind of fallen into place. As well as the color scheme, I think we really like, and it plays well. So, a lot of learning. The team together, you've got a team of 12 or 10 people who probably all had their own vision of what they wanted to do with this identity. And magic happens sometimes when we get the picture of our head that's in our head, and we erase it, and we just go. Because you end up in a different spot than I think everyone thought they would be, and that's what happened. So it's a long answer.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Catherine Bogart, UtahMammoth.com. Ashley, for you, the community has been a huge part of SEG from the start, and this is the second Big Four team within the family. What excites you the most about the impact you guys can have in the community besides the 10,000 kids who have already signed up for hockey?
Youth is such a big part of what we want to do with the foundation, and I think how successful Junior Jazz has been, and having my own children and having all of these athletes that they get to look up to, and that my boys are watching these players, right? And so to then get to see them do awesome, cool things that make our state better, and to be externally focused, that influence on youth is immeasurable, and that is changing the future of our state. So I think that for me is definitely the most exciting thing. I want my boys to watch every move of these players because they are doing such cool things and they are using the platform for good. and they're changing lives. It's awesome.
Brogan Houston from Deseret News over here. I have two questions, if I may. Gary, first for you. You mentioned an NHL outdoor game rather in Utah. Would you mind expounding on that?
I believe that we can pull all the things together that need to be pulled together, and just up the road a little bit, there's a nice stadium, and we have to schedule these things a little bit in advance, but it's on our radar.
Awesome. And then just secondly, for any of the three of you, what has surprised you most about this process?
I actually think there was a point where I realized that no matter what identity was chosen, it was going to be insane because Utah does things right. And so I knew whatever the fans decided would be right. And then I knew that SEG would pull it off. So there was just this point where it was just exciting of it doesn't matter how this lands. It's going to be incredible, and I'm going to get excited about it, and the whole state's going to get excited about it. That for me was the best, like a really good moment that I remember vividly. Yeah.
Okay, over here, Kim Becker with the Utah Mammoth broadcast, which is really fun to say. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Ashley, this one's for you. You met with the players before the news broke publicly this morning. Can you just talk about their reaction a little bit?
You were getting ready.
I was getting ready, but I did. Ryan came upstairs and I said, so they all know? Yes. And the first thing that happened when I came in here is I was talking with someone and they said the players are all posting about the new identity, and I just think everyone, it's that same energy I was just talking about, like everyone can feel it. And watching that video, I mean, if we are not all just total Mammoth fans, right? If we were given the vote again right now, no matter what everyone previously voted in this room, you would vote Mammoth. And so I think we're all feeling like that in this room. It's exciting.
Sarah Merrifield with Utah Mammoth broadcast as well. Ryan, this one's for you. As far as the logo goes, I know you mentioned the history with the Mammoth, but how important was it for you to keep the identity of Utah with those Easter eggs of the logo and what that stands for in this community?
Yeah, I think there's a couple cool things. If you look at the mountain range, it's something that we've also got on the Jazz jerseys. We've got our new white jersey coming out where on every single jersey, it's that mountain range that we authentically own in the state of Utah. No one owns that, right? And then I think if you look at, there's a bunch of others, but you can see the state, right? I'll do it right here, but just that's our Utah state with an M in it. And there's a bunch more that our designers can talk through on how it works. But I think it's cool. It's something that we'll remember, and it's just part of the process and the evolution. So I like it. And I think if you look at the mark, I mean, if you remember on the video, when that mark was coming up and flashing through everything, and we've looked at it with all the other logos, and there's some iconic hockey marks. This is very much, it will be iconic. I mean, that on a hat, that you'll see it. It'll become really cool. Also, it allows us to continue and not lose the ground that we've already won with Utah. And we love that Utah is on the forefront of everything. And so ideally, Utah on the mark, and, it's really cool. And then you add Tuss up to it. It's how we identify ourselves with each other. If you see someone else from Utah, we hope you're saying that. I mean, it's a little Roll Tide-esque, but that's fine.
And I'm just going to add that having its own identity, the Mammoth, is so meaningful. And then to have a connection, whether the mountain or the blue, with the Jazz, we get to unify around the Mammoth, and we get to unify around the Jazz, and now we get to unify around our sports teams. And it's just who doesn't want to be a part of that? That is bringing us together in this world that's just divisive on every other level. So I personally love the things that cross over, but I also love its own identity in itself.
Brian Carlson, KSL. I guess I can start over here. Now that we got a name and a logo, have you talked about the mascot yet? What's that going to look like?
That's where I stopped. I know there's a company bringing.
How athletic are you?
I know there's a company bringing back the woolly mammoth, so I don't know how that's going to show up living in the Delta Center. But no, I think there's a million ways we can go. There was a bunch of people who were dressed up last year. I'm not sure how we're going to take that, but I'll leave that up to the group. There's a bunch of fun ideas around what we're going to call the mascot and how it's all going to go, but there's a little bit left.
Jake Hatch, KSL Sports. This is for either right here, Commissioner Bettman or for you, Ryan. In terms of the revamp of this building itself, how much work has gone into that alongside this logo and the rebrand?
Yeah, I mean, if I don't think we have enough safety equipment for everyone to go back there, but it's gnarly.
It's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
This organization's ability to multitask is actually off the charts, because we were back there, as I said, half hour ago. The construction, the vision, what the architects came up with. I mean, the fact that they're under construction and it's been less than a year, and what they had to design was actually unique, revolutionary, very specific to this building, making sure that the building had the right sight lines for both hockey and basketball, and making sure the building was intimate. That's no easy task. In fact, I don't know that anybody's ever been able to do it as well as this building is going to be doing it. And the fact that they did that, a temporary practice facility, a permanent practice facility, the logo, get the team up and running, having the creation of a new fan base and ticket sales and season tickets and merchandising and sponsors and advertising. It is unbelievable what they have been able to accomplish. And sports is supposed to bring people together, and I believe it does. And sports is supposed to be something you can have fun with, whether you're a fan or whether or not you're a community or whether or not you're owners. And you've made this into an art form, and you deserve incredible kudos for something that most people not only couldn't envision doing, but could never execute the way you are. So
and we have players. I mean, we got Lowry, we got Ollie, we got Gunther, Colsey, we got you all locked up. Let's go. Boehner's next. We got a lot of work to do on the ice and on the court and everything else. But look, it's crazy in there. If you think about what we're trying to do, most of the time in a hockey, and you've been to some of these where it's hockey first, they take it out, and then what they'll do is they'll pull it in for hoops. And if you're behind the goals or the baskets, it's almost seating like this. And one of the beauties of Delta Center is we're on top of each other. It is intimate. It is loud. And we didn't want to lose that. And so we've had to rely on technology that, honestly wasn't available 30 years ago, and really push to create something where we can flex in and out without losing the intimacy of Delta Center that we always like. And so it's a feat. Jim Olson, the team, it's incredible. And at the same time, we're standing up Southtown, which will be another sports hub that kind of bookends our valley, which we're excited about.
Technology that didn't exist 30 years ago, it didn't exist a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you're inventing it, which is incredible.
Scary and good.
Yeah. No, it's scary good.
All right, there's the Q&A portion of the Utah Mammoth press conference. They are now the Mammoth. Tuss up. We're going to be hearing a lot of that. When we come back, Tim LaComb is talking basketball and playoffs. Stay with us. Good morning. DJ and PK is proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Tim LaComb joined us in yesterday's show to talk NHL playoffs. Now, obviously, at that point, he didn't know the Knicks were going to blow another 20-point lead. Rally from a 20-point deficit as the Celtics blew a 20-point lead. So the Knicks are up 2-0. The Celtics have now been in control of both games and let it go. Oops. So now the Knicks are going home 2-0. And Oklahoma City just dominated Denver. So that series now 1-1. Obviously, Tim didn't know those two results, but here are his thoughts on the Jazz, the draft, and the NBA playoffs. I think we know who the second player picked in the draft will be, but is he really the second best player, or is there someone, if they don't get number one, is there someone you'd like to see him draft other than Harper? Because Harper is consensus number 2 pick everywhere you look.
Yeah, and I think talent-wise, I think he is that guy, but that's me. You know, I mean, there were a lot of people saying that back in the Tatum and Folk draft. And so really, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And one thing I will say is I have really liked the picks the Jazz have made. And I know the Cody Williams pick this year is still out there, and Cody did not necessarily perform at a great level this year, but I think that was all pretty expected with his physique. And I think when his physique changes, people will see the reason Cody was in that mix. But I think they've done a nice job, not necessarily always just trying to get the highest hype guy, but the guys that, you know, kind of move the needle in an area, and then more importantly, have the desire and the work ethic to improve and get better. But I think me personally, I think Harper's too, from what I've watched. I've got to really dig in here soon. You know, a 3-week stretch where I put the guitar down and just look at the draft. But I would say Harper's too. But there are other guys that bring things. And Danny Ainge is always, you know, Ainge, Zanuck, those guys are always looking for a freak. You know, somebody can do something at an elite level that can help the team. So, again, they'll scour and do all their research and do all their work. But the proof in the pudding, the stuff that they've brought here, you know, the roster that they've started to build here, it's really talented, and it's talented in different ways. And so I think they'll continue to try to do that.
Yeah, the great thing is if they get number one, which I think they will too, I feel it, man, that they won't have to think very much about who to pick number one. Now they still got work to do on tons of other stuff. If they were to get Flag, I'm still thinking that you go along the lines of the rebuild rather than trying to get a couple veterans in here and get yourself 5 or 6 more wins. What do you think?
Well, I think if they get him and with the roster kind of that's, I guess to use a church term again, presently constituted, I think that I think they're ready to take the next step. And I think at that point, you're not necessarily, you know, trying to get the number one pick per se. I think what you're trying to do now is figure out the way forward. And I still believe if guys would have been healthy this year, this team would have won way more games, you know, 10 to 15 more games. And you add Flag to that mix, and obviously there's going to be some crossover carryover, so there's going to have to be some moves made in the summertime to shore everything up. But I think they're ready to rock and roll. I think they're ready to start down the yellow brick road on the way to the Wizard.
Yeah, I don't know that I go with that, but I appreciate your answer.
No, that's honestly how I feel. I really do. I don't think they win it, right? That's not my point, but I think they start the journey.
No, yeah.
And then you start to, I mean, you're on the road, you're trying to figure it out, but that's also when, you know, you meet people like the Cowardly Lion and the Tin Man that other places maybe discard and you could pick up. So I think that's where you start your journey.
Yeah, but God never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have.
That is a very good point from history. Thank you.
I don't know about that. I just know the Flying Monkeys are wildly unpredictable, and I expect another year of wildly unpredictable Flying Monkeys. I think they're only going for it if they hit on Flag and they hit on a trade. Maybe not the big game hunting, but at least a medium-sized game hunting. Then I could see them going. But otherwise, this draft's supposed to be good, and they don't want to give up the pick. I think they'll have one of the 5 worst records in the NBA, and they'll do what they have to do to engineer it. And maybe they'll engineer it in the summer with a trade, make the roster younger, and that'll take care of that.
Yeah, well, the best part about it is we get to sit here and watch it. You know, all season long we talked about the playoffs in the pre and post and how fun they would be. The playoffs are definitely fun right now. You know, that's the beauty of it, though, is David Locke all year long was saying he thought the Wolves would be that second team, you know, to play the Thunder, and all of a sudden now the Thunder are down. The Celtics are down. The Cavs are down 2-0. So that is why we do all this. We conjecture, we talk about it, but it does get done. And, you guys make great points, and I also think my point's pretty solid. And again, I'm not saying they're going to try to win the championship, but I think the days of, guys sitting out, all of that stuff, I think with Cooper Flags here, I think we're starting to move and see what else we can acquire along the way. But wins become more important at that point.
We always hear that, and we've seen it if you watch the game, that the difference between the playoffs and the regular season is very much different, and the intensity and all that. And so now we've seen teams just continue to play in the manner in which they play in the regular season. And what I mean by that is continue to jack up threes. And they're not falling.
Give them that Minnesota number.
Yeah, they're like 12 of 76. Donovan Mitchell, 2 of 18. I mean, it just goes on. But I can make an argument, sure, in the regular season, when by their own acknowledgement, the game isn't as physical or as intense. I mean, you literally can see it when you watch the games. It's like no surprise to anyone, and the players and the folks on the inside actually admit that. So I'm wondering, how good is the three-point shot if the intensity is much stronger and they're being contested because people are playing much harder in the playoffs? Should they adjust and not just throw up bricks after the Celtics the other day? They get a 20-point lead. They come down. The next 10 possessions, they go 0 for 10 from 3. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it's definitely a great point. I mean, the term you talk about, like the regular season feels pretty free and easy, until necessarily the clutch time. I mean, that's where you see it get a little bit more intense. In the playoffs, for the most part, not every guy, you mentioned Donovan Mitchell, and I feel so bad saying this, but Donovan really in both games he scored a lot of points, but he put his team in tough situations defensively time and time again, not running back in transition, not blocking out, not stepping over for your teammate to contest something. And those little holes start to show. But to your point on the three-point shooting, the other part you got to think about is guys are playing hard. They're giving more. They're giving more of themselves on the defensive side.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so the three-point shot, their legs are not the same. I've always felt like when it comes down to it, when you get into whatever level, state tournament, the college tournament, or the NBA, everything changes and it ratchets up. And I do think possessions become more important. I may be old school and people say, no, you got to play the analytics, but I think you're comparing regular season analytics to postseason analytics. And I would say that those numbers are vastly different. So you can't abandon the three, but I do believe at times you have to be more reliant on things that can get you a tried and true bucket or a free throw shot, something at the free throw line. That's always been the old adage in playoff tournament settings is those possessions become important. You don't want to massage the ball. You still want to play free and easy, but we always were more aware of shot selection in tournaments because the momentum, your opportunities really are different than they are in the regular season.
The Thunder gave up a 16-4 run to end the game in the last 3 minutes and lose. And SGA had all 4 of those points. Have they got to figure out a way to get him the ball? And I know, he's the best guy and the other team's trying to take him away. Well, of course they are, granted, of course. But isn't this why Steph Curry runs off 10 or 12 screens and gets himself in phenomenal shape? And people in phenomenal shape work out with him in the summer and get cramps and get sick to their stomach because they can't keep up with him. It's like, don't they have to get to that point? Because the other guys are young. It doesn't look like they're ready to win. Holmgren missed big free throws at the line in the final seconds. Don't they have to find a way to get the ball to SGA down the stretch if they're going to close these games out?
Yeah, I think every team has to have what I call their bell cow, right? And sometimes Shea's, where he is his most effective, he can be doubled and have to give the ball up. And I think it's going to be important for Oklahoma City to figure out different ways, to get him the ball. But at the same time, he's in the playoffs, taking a team to the promised land's unproven too. So I said that all along. It's, this Oklahoma City team is dominant in the regular season. We've seen that here, right? We've seen a team that rolled through the regular season pretty easily. And then the playoffs came and schemes changed and physicality changed and the approach changed. So that's going to be really important for Oklahoma City as they kind of traverse through this, for one of the first times with a major target on them, and it makes it more difficult. Majerus used to say it all the time, heavy is the head that wears the crown. These guys have had an incredible regular season, but now the pressure's on them to win at least the West. And, yeah, it's a new group in the playoffs. So, yeah, I would say you've got to have your bell cow take you there. And it'll be interesting to see that's the other thing great about playoffs is the chess match between coaches. How will Oklahoma City change that? How will they try to close games? And that's why I'm pretty glued to this stuff most nights.
In the land of the blind, Tim, the one-eyed man is king.
I've heard that one too.
I would not suggest
I heard that one too.
I would not suggest that a team fire their coach and GM like a week before the playoffs, but it has freed up the Joker to lead in huddles. And we've seen lots of emotion out of him in both series now. He's talking, he's waving his arms, he's imploring his guys to do whatever it is he's talking about. Who knows, defending, rebounding, getting him the ball, whatever it is. Do you think in a weird way Denver actually discovered something, even though they went against conventional wisdom by making major changes right before the playoffs?
Yeah, maybe so. I guess the point is not the only people that know really what was going on with people in that locker room. I think Adelman's done a great job. Young guy, just kind of stepped in. But, yeah, part of it is maybe the freedom that Jokic feels, maybe to open his mouth more now. Malone is definitely he's a guy that stopped the lady interviewing him during a timeout on TV and said, she called him Mike, and he said, it's Michael. So I would assume he's a rule keeper or a rule follower. He rules with a pretty iron fist. And maybe some of that freedom has helped Jokic. When I was growing up, they used to have player coaches. You guys remember that? Couple player coaches.
Dave DeBuscher.
And I was thinking that when he was up, I was like, let's bring back the player coach, because he looked like he could do it. He's definitely smart enough. He's got enough knowledge, and he shows that on the daily.
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose was a player coach.
Yeah. Was Lenny Wilkins?
I bet Pete was great.
I don't know with Wilkins. Could have been. I don't know.
Did you guys get it?
No, because Yak was talking to us. We didn't hear you.
Oh, I said, I bet Pete was great.
You knew something happened when you didn't get a reaction. It's like, okay, now.
Yeah, because I was like, that was pretty good, at least here in the car.
I'm autoimmune to jokes.
I'm Tim LaComb.
What are we getting a shaking of the head no for?
Yeah, car, auto. It's okay, but you've had some good stuff today. That just wasn't.
You can't have a.
You got about 1 minute with me. I got to go into an interview here with some.
Well, meditate for 30 seconds and pull yourself together. We'll go now. Thank you, Tim. You're the man.
You guys are the best. It's the best pre-interview I've ever had.
There's Tim LaComb. A reminder. The Jazz, are they going to end up with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA Draft? Join the Zone from 3 to 6 next Monday, May 12th, for the NBA Draft Lottery Watch Party at JCW's in Harriman, 1551 Anthem Park Boulevard. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Chris Level is talking football. He's the Texas Tech sideline reporter. They are pouring millions of dollars of oil money into that football program. We'll talk with him next. Stay with us. DJ PK, we're joined now by Chris Level, Texas Tech sideline reporter and host of Locked On Texas Tech podcast. Chris, good morning.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
We're doing well. we are maybe not doing as well as a former Texas Tech football player who sold his company for $4 billion. Cody Campbell and John Sellers might be doing better than DJ and PK.
Well, and if there's anybody out there that likes the low price of oil out there right now, it's probably those guys, because they'll go buy everything up again and then resell it here in a couple of years. And that's the third or fourth time they've sold a company for $1 billion, I think. So, yeah, not bad to be those guys. Drill, baby, drill, I guess is the old saying here in West Texas.
So that was my motto too.
Fair enough.
They are so they're giving Texas Tech a ton of money. We've just heard this with SMU. We've seen SMU take off, and we've heard about Texas Tech showering NIL on players and getting active in the recruiting portal. Should Texas Tech, riding all this oil money, should Texas Tech be thought of as one of the big dogs, if not the big dog, when the poll comes out here? Has Texas Tech loaded up this year?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying. I mean, right? I mean, I think that's the thing, is I think that Texas Tech, and I think you guys can attest to this as it relates to BYU. You're ruffling some feathers. You are, I think, being regarded as a bit of a disruptor. They're tampering. They're overpaying. They're resetting the market. Whatever everybody says. I mean, these are the rules right now, and I think that some schools are taking advantage of them. Some are not in a position to be able to do that, but I think Texas Tech is very much trying to push their chips in the middle of the table, and they've got motivated money, right? I mean, they want to look. BYU had a double-digit win season last year, and they had a great year, and it still wasn't quite enough to get to where they wanted to go. And so there's no guarantees on any of this stuff, but Texas Tech was one game away from playing in the title game last year, and they beat both of the teams that played in the title game. And what kept them from that was your offensive and defensive line, which is why the SEC is always so good in football, because they basically have better big people than most everybody else. And so I think it's 10 of the 21 portal additions are linemen. You've added 4 on offense and then 6 on defense, and that's just what they try to fix. Now, they try to fix a lot of other things or add help to it, but yeah, man, as far as contender, I personally think Arizona State should be picked to win this league.
What'd you say? I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that? Who should be picked to win the league?
Arizona State.
Okay.
Go ahead and explain, because right now he's wondering what the heck just happened.
Well, I mean, they won it, and I got you. And their quarterback is back. I think there's a lot of chatter. Okay, can they ably replace Cam Scatterboot? Well, I mean, that kid from Army's, I think, going to be a really good fit with what Kenny Dillingham's doing, and they bring back most of the roster.
Yeah.
I don't know if they will win it, but they are going to be a handful. Texas Tech has to go to Tempe, and but obviously the Sun Devils came to Lubbock last year, and nobody knew it at the time, but that was one of Texas Tech's biggest wins. It was so early that we just didn't know what we didn't know at the time. But I think Texas Tech, I think BYU, I think Kansas State, I think Iowa State, and I think there's going to be some chatter about the TCUs and the BYUs, the Baylors as well. That's your top tier. I think after that it falls off a bit, but it's going to be eye of the beholder on how you rank that top 5 to 7 teams right there. But I personally would think that Arizona State deserves to be picked to win this thing.
Well, you talk about how they're going to replace Scatterboot, and obviously that's a legitimate question. But how about Texas Tech replacing their all-time leading rusher? Not that Scatterboot was for the Sun Devils, but Taj Brooks was really good.
Yeah, yes, he was. All-time leading rusher, as you mentioned, and just kind of the identity of what your team was on offense. I think it'll look different. If you tell me, right, because they had a 1,000-yard running back here, and they had a 1,000-yard receiver here last year, and Josh Kelly that signed with the Cowboys. And I can't tell you right now if you're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. They brought in a big-time wideout from Miami of Ohio that Oklahoma wanted and Florida State wanted. Named Reggie Virgil. They bring back Caleb Douglas. Their quarterback is back, and Baron Morton is finally healthy. And Quentin Joyner, it was the running back that they brought in from USC, who averaged over 7 yards a carry. And So we'll, and plus, really, I don't want to bury the lead here, but really the point is that you've got a new offensive coordinator, and it's a slightly different scheme than what you had. However, having said all of that, if your offensive line is better, and it's a low bar because they were extremely average and on the left side really bad last year. If that is better, everybody else's life gets better and much easier because they've got 2 6'8" tackles on either side of the line. I think they feel like they've drastically improved that group up front. And if that's the case, then you'll be able to do things a bit differently, and you won't have to, just kind of play the in between the tackles run game and whatnot. So I'm curious to see kind of what this offense looks like. It's a bit of Mac Leftwich has got some Baylor principles in him from when Art Briles was there, and then there's some air raid stuff, which what Mike Leach was doing here years and years ago, and it's kind of a combination of a spread run type style where they take a lot of shots down the field based off the RPO. So we'll see. A lot of pressure on the quarterback to be better and to make some plays for sure.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and we're joined right now by Chris Level, Texas Tech sideline reporter, host of the Locked On Texas Tech podcast. Both Utah and BYU will be playing Texas Tech, Utah early in the year, BYU in November. It's interesting you say that about these offensive principles because Morton's passing stats have been going up. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year. His touchdown-interception ratio keeps improving. It was 27-8 last year. So there's a lot of good things. But his rushing stats, he doesn't really he seems like more of a pocket guy. The numbers are tiny in an era when it seems like even quarterbacks who aren't known as running quarterbacks seem to run for 300, 400, 500 yards.
Yeah, and I think, and that's a very fair point, and I think that hurts his QBR, which that's been pointed out. Many people that aren't fans of Brandon Morton or want to poke holes in him, they point to what you just said, and part of that, I think you're really trying to protect him and not put him in harm's way because he's had some injury history. I think they didn't want to go that route too much, and I think part of it too is his offensive line just wasn't very good. So not a lot of time and all that. He is an athletic guy. He's not a running quarterback per se, but he's an athletic guy. I mean, this is a guy that was all state in 5 different sports in high school, unheard of. And in the state of Texas, that's a big deal. So he's a good athlete, but I do think you'll see him run a bit more this year and make that a part of what they want to do. They feel very comfortable with their backup in Will Hammond, and now that Barron is healthy, I don't think they feel the need to just protect him at all costs and not put him in harm's way and things like that. So I think he'll be a little bit more aggressive there. And I think Coach Leftwich, the new offensive coordinator, is going to put some of that into what they do. But again, there's a lot of pressure here with as much money has been spent, and you bring in this and some expectations. I mean, at some point, the quarterback will have to go win you a game. Things aren't going to go well. Can you make a play on 3rd and 8 late in the game on the road kind of thing? I mean, that's just part of, if you want to get to where you want to go, the quarterback's got to be a part of it for sure.
Well, you speak of the offense, but on the defense, man, in 24, they weren't good. 126th in total defense, 121st in scoring defense, 132nd in passing yards allowed. So what do? They go ahead and fire Tim DeRuyter, the defensive coordinator, and they hire Wood, the defensive coordinator from Houston. And then also, I believe they signed 9 transfers on defense, 2 new edge rushers, one from Georgia, and then Bailey from Stanford, David Bailey, who's being talked about as a number 1 pick, first round, in 26. And also 2, they got defensive tackle Hunter from UCF, cornerback Pollock from Mississippi State. So 9 transfers on defense. They're going to be able to be overhauled because statistically it looks like they need it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy is how close you were to playing in the title game when your offensive line is just about as average as you can imagine, and then your defense was just bad. They had their moments, but they just, they're ranked in the 120s in scoring defense, total defense, everything like that, and yet you were still right there on the cusp of doing some things. And you're right, Tim DeRuyter kind of took the fall there, and Tim's a good guy. He's a really good coach. They just – they went young last year, and it ultimately cost them. There was a lot of youth on this team, and I think they liked the depth. But it was okay. Where was the quality of player? And you just couldn't put enough pressure on the quarterback. So you're right. They put a premium on going to find guys that could put pressure on the quarterback. They signed 3D tackles. They signed a couple of what I think are pretty elite edge rushers. And we'll see what it looks like. But I think that was the talk of spring, is their defensive line is legit. This is kind of uncharted territory for Texas Tech. And then you've got they brought in 5 DBs that are all 6'3" or bigger. And I think Pollock is maybe closer to 6'2", but still they overhauled that secondary, and we'll see what it looks like. But I think their plan is that they feel like they should be able to consistently get pressure with just rushing 4, which makes everybody's life easier as well, because they're so good up front and they've got depth and they can keep throwing bodies at you. And this is where the investment was made, is up front on both sides of the ball, and they look a lot different. I had a coach tell me, look, we're because you played Arkansas in the bowl game, and it was Arkansas's backups large in part versus Texas Tech's backups, and Arkansas's were better. You had a lot of guys that sat out of the game, and there was no Taj Brooks or Josh Kelly and no Baron Morton and all the like, but Arkansas's guys just look different. And that's a mediocre SEC team. And now you start to look a lot more like what an SEC team is. Lee Hunter is 6'3", 320. He was a second-team All-Big 12 guy. The Holmes kid that they brought in is not even going to start, and he was a starter for a really good top 25 defense for Houston last year. So you dare to dream a little bit, but maybe the offense doesn't have to be as explosive as it has been around here, because your defense is so good.
The top 11 tacklers, none of them were D linemen. No D lineman had 25 tackles. So if these transfers take over the whole D line, I get that. But are there any players, linebacker and safety? They were, as you point out, most of them are back because they were all so young. Rodriguez led the team. Jacob Rodriguez led the team with 127 tackles. Is there some talent back there, or is this really going to be all brand new?
No, and I think you make a great point. Linebacker was the one position on the team that was untouched in the portal. No one left. No one was added. And I think, Ben Roberts, Jacob Rodriguez, John Curry, Michael Dingle, that whole group. And then you bring back one of your starting corners and Mo Horn. So there's a nucleus there. And Jacob Rodriguez is the kind of the heart and soul type guy. I think he had some possibilities to go into the NFL draft. I think he probably would have been a late round pick or an undrafted free agent, but they were able to get him back, and he's a captain, and he just is a really good football player, statistically and otherwise. He's just always around the ball and all those things. So, and they still have a lot of their youth up front on defense, but now it'll give them a chance to kind of grow up instead of being pushed into duty early and maybe not quite being ready for prime time. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. They did lose a few edge guys to the portal. Isaac Smith played a lot last year, and we just didn't call his name a ton. He goes and signs with Michigan State. Then they lose Joseph Adedire, who missed all of last year due to injury, and he goes and signs with NC State. But other than that, they kept everybody. So you get old, you keep your very highly recruited guys from a youth standpoint, and you kind of let them ease into it and see what good play looks like. And so we'll see. It's always been the defense around here in Lubbock for the last 20 years. And when you were really good, and when you have been really good, the offense has always been the constant, but the defense has been much better in those years. And because you've had a tradition. Jordan Brooks, first-round draft pick, went to Seattle. Tyree Wilson a couple years ago was a first-round draft pick to the Raiders. So you've had good defensive players around here, but I think they put a heavy investment into it for sure.
You mentioned people poking holes in Morton. If the defense is terrible, if the defensive line is non-existent, if the right side of the offensive line is average and the left side is bad, and if they're winning games 56-48 and 44-41, which they did, why is anyone poking holes in Morton? I would think he'd be the hero.
Well, welcome to Lubbock.
Okay.
This is Mike Leach's fault. It's like, Zach Kitley he took the brunt of the blame for everything around here last year, which drove me crazy. He was the OC. He's now the new head coach at Florida Atlantic. And Zach's offense was so bad that it ranked in the top 10 in total offense, ranked in the top 10 in scoring offense in the country. And here I'm telling you, you were just extremely average to very poor on the offensive line, especially on the left side. But that's just the standard, or you're spoiled if you're, the kind of the fan base around here as it relates to offense. It was always the wrong play call, or why aren't we doing this more? You're running it too much. You're not running it enough. I mean, it's just part of what comes with being an offensive coach here at Texas Tech, and it's a difficult job from a standard or an expectation standpoint, and that's kind of the standard that Mike set here many, many years ago.
Well, Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks for talking to us about what oil money is doing to the Texas Tech roster. We appreciate it.
All right. Hey, man, I appreciate it, fellas. Y'all keep hope alive. Thanks for having me on.
Chris Level, Texas Tech sideline reporter, host of the Locked On Texas Tech podcast. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are on the way.